Welcome back to the Grass is Greener series. In today's episode, we explore the question, now that half the year is gone, am I where I thought I'd be?
We bring two different perspectives in the tech industry, working at big tech and startups. In this series, we share our lives in parallel to each other because the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. You know, they say that the scarcest resource is time, and it is so true, but I don't know why it's so easy to forget. It's already the third week of August, and I just peeled off July on my calendar just now. It's actually been a whole year now since I left Notion, and it feels crazy to say that. And I've been having a lot of thoughts and feelings about it as of late. I've always known that I wanted to start a company. I just didn't know what exactly during that time, even though I had a lot of ideas. I essentially left to explore, take a bit of a break, and essentially bet on myself. And it was probably one of the scariest and hardest things I've done in my career. And the fact that I even had it as an option, I'm super thankful for, especially growing up as a first-generation immigrant from a lower income background. I've had it ingrained in my skull that stability and prestige were of utmost importance. So when I left, I remember those first few months feeling very foreign to me. It almost felt like I was breaking the rules in a way, but now I'm just like, what rules? Like, I make the rules. I've been asking myself a lot of questions like, am I as far along as I thought I would be? Was the risk worth it? Do I want to keep going? So these are all questions I've been really thinking about, and I'll get into it later in the video.
I honestly can't believe we're already in August, and I just feel this pressure about how much I need to get done in the next few months. I mean, next month is already my Q3 review, so I feel like time just flies. To be honest, last year Q3 was one of the worst reviews I've ever gotten. While I knew things could be better, I also didn't think they were as bad as they were. But because that review was towards the end of the year, I felt like I just didn't have enough time to turn things around as quickly as I had wanted to. Part of it was because by the time I got that review, it was Q4 and, people just aren't really around. But also when you're at a big company, the timeline has a way of constantly getting extended and it's pretty out of your control. But because of that, it's pretty easy to lose momentum and motivation when your projects are kind of in a lull. And, when it comes time to pick things back up, I definitely lost some momentum. So I'm just doing my best right now to make sure that I keep that momentum going.
Take it away, feeling too good to me. Chilling all day, all in your space.
I know that they say that time is money. For me, it feels quite literal because my timeline is basically defined by how much money I have left in my savings. And right now that's until the end of this year. So I wanted to talk through a little bit of my process, how I've been thinking about money and gaining capital and all of that. 6 months after I left Notion, I just completely took a break. So I feel like my exploration only started in the beginning of this year. And in the beginning of my exploration, I wanted to bootstrap for as long as possible because I was still unsure whether or not I wanted to go down the venture capital path. There is inherently a lot of expectation and pressure from receiving VC money, so I wanted to be very thoughtful about it and only do it when it really made sense to me, and I just wanted to freely explore on my own terms. But as the months moved on, the problem I wanted to solve became more crystallized. I realized that what I wanted to build required a lot more upfront capital than typical SaaS products. On top of that, my personal runway is also running out as well. If I want to continue down this path full time, which right now I still do, I need some way to further support myself. So here are some of the avenues that I have either explored or am exploring for money and basically to get some capital. So the first one is obvious, my savings. I saved up a lot of money in preparation for the sabbatical. And this is separate from my emergency fund, which is like a no-touch zone for me. And obviously the pro of this is like maximum freedom. But the con is like, because you're also using your own money, it's very like mentally difficult to see your savings decrease without much coming in. So every time I get a little freaked out, I regularly remind myself, Jenny, you saved up this money for this exact reason. It's serving its intended purpose. I'm like considering this, you know, my personal MBA. Another avenue is just like random side gigs. I do these advisory calls with these startups, or now I'm starting to do these like expert consultation calls. Basically, you work with like a consulting firm, and I haven't like prioritized or done enough of these to make it like a consistent stream of income, but I think moving forward, I will put more energy into that. And also, Amy and I do YouTube. We do make money from it, but it's like DoorDash money, and we don't really do this for the money anyway. So there's another avenue, which is grants. And grants is basically free money with no strings attached. This is usually given by like the government, but if you apply to like science and research-based grants, it's actually a lot harder to qualify for those because you usually have to be affiliated with like a university or research organization. So I've been applying to like these more unconventional like grant programs, and now there's another avenue, which are like accelerator and incubator programs. And these are basically time-based programs that aim to like nurture very early companies and provide you access to capital and mentorship and network. The con is that it can be a very big time commitment, and also you are receiving venture capital money at the end of the day, which means you give away equity. So here are some examples of a bunch of programs out there, and some of them I am applying myself. Another avenue is VCs and angel investors. It feels too early for me to tap into that, but it's something I'm considering for the future. And with VCs, obviously the pro is that they invest a lot of capital, but also the con is that because they invest in so much capital, it comes with a lot of expectation. They want to 100x their return in a given time frame. So you can imagine how that might shift and impact the direction and the motivations of like where to take the company. On the flip side, angels are basically very wealthy individuals that invest like very small checks. It can be like, I don't know, like $1,000. And they are obviously a lot more flexible to work with. I hope this is helpful for anyone who is worried about the money stuff, especially if there's no path to revenue yet on the company that you're building, or for those who are already on this path and can resonate.
So looking back, the reason Q3 of last year went so poorly for me was because I didn't make as much progress as expected to on my projects. The miss on my end seems pretty simple. I should have been more productive, I should be producing more results. But when I think about why I was more unproductive than I wanted to be, I realize now that it's a lot more than, oh, I'm being lazy or I'm not motivated enough. It's actually because my work was ambiguous, which led to me feeling overwhelmed, and that resulted in inaction. Instead of just brushing things under the umbrella of disappointment and failure, now when something feels ambiguous to me, I try to focus less on the lofty, ambitious goals to focus more on smaller, less exciting, but very attainable results. So hypothetically, let's say that I have to drive $15 million in value. That $15 million will be what my org is focused on and what my performance review will be tied to. Let's say for this particular project, I'm analyzing all our media fees across Google. So like any other company, we have rates and fees that we pay our suppliers. I start to spin because, while $15 million sounds super impactful, I just don't know where to start because there are so many suppliers and so many rates. And this is where I start to feel like it's not possible to attain that goal. However, what I've learned to do today is to prioritize and to break it down step by step. So for example, across all these suppliers, I could start identifying what type of fee it is. And once I start to identify that, I can start grouping these suppliers into those types. So type 1 has these suppliers. Type 2 has these suppliers. This will help me prioritize what type of fee I need to address first based on highest spend. And then I just go down the list from there. So when I tackle the first fee type, I save $4 million. When I tackle the second fee type, I save $1 million. That's already $5 million, which is only a third of the way to 15 million, but it's still a real result that I've produced and can compoundingly build onto. I've noticed that for myself, while it's good to have that North Star or that lofty ambition for myself, the ambiguity of how to get there can also feel very overwhelming and unattainable. Building in as much tangible improvements and attainable goals have helped me a lot in making progress.
So I've been thinking a lot about, it's been 1 year since I left Notion. And obviously, like, you've really seen me in that journey from then to now. I am just so glad that I can also witness your journey. Because for you, it's been 2 years, right? Since you left Notion.
When I left Notion, I actually didn't know what product I was building, but I knew the problem that I wanted to solve, which is probably very different and antithetical to what everyone tells you in the industry, to like not leave your job unless you have momentum going already, or at least revenue coming in.
Maybe that's why we're friends, because we both did that and we're both crazy.
Both kind of just like go, okay, universe, like I hope you have my back. The problem space that I decided to work on is how do you translate emotion into action after you watch a really good film or TV show and you're like, dang, that really hit me in the feels. What do I do now? How can I help fix this issue? I actually didn't care about starting my own company. I'm not one of those like serial entrepreneurs. But the problem was that no company like this existed. And so that's why I had to build MPAC.
I think living in San Francisco and being in the heart of startups, it's very easy to get disheartened comparing yourself. It's such a test to my own belief system. How much do I care about that versus caring about the problem that I want to solve, or just testing myself? I'm just genuinely curious. How am I going to react to these difficult situations and what will I learn from them? And seeing myself go through that journey has been very fulfilling. It's like, wow, I'm stronger than I think. Or like, wow, I'm more insecure than I thought I was. That's what this journey of entrepreneurship kind of does to you. You see your strengths so clearly, but also you see your weaknesses so clearly. And also there's days where I'm like, what the fuck are my strengths? You know what I mean? Last thing, like, what's top of mind for you? Like, what are you working on now?
So this movie that I'm working on right now is called 36 Seconds, Portrait of a Hate Crime. This incident actually went pretty viral back in 2015 because 3 UNC students were shot over what the media painted to be a parking dispute, when in reality it was absolutely racially motivated. And we're doing screenings right now. I'll share the link and you'll get to watch it.
Go watch it, people.
I know these days I've been really focused on, is this the right scope of work for me, where I'm very good at what I'm doing? And the whole point of the series, I think, is really acknowledging that you can find a patch of really green grass in your life if you look closely enough. And I think what I've been examining is I'm in a place with a lot of smart people where I can develop skills that may not come as easily to me. And I think with that quarterly review, very disappointed in myself at the time. But now that I'm looking back on it, I think I was able to make so much progress through that disappointment. And these are things that I do want to work on because I do see the benefits of honing certain skills, like learning how to work in ambiguity or, learning how to build momentum for myself. So overall, I think my patch of grass is that I've really been nurturing and developing those skills. Who knows how this next quarterly review will go, but however it goes, I am content and proud of myself for making those improvements. I think that self-assessment at the end of the day is what's most important to me.